Here is something most of us have never been taught to think about carefully. What actually happens when we die? Not as a theological question, not as a question of what comes after, but as a question of process. What is the sequence of events? What does the dying person experience? How long does it take? And is there anything useful that those present can actually do? Most modern cultures treat death as an event, a moment, a switch that moves from on to off. The Tibetan Buddhist tradition treats it as something completely different, a process, unfolding across stages, navigable with preparation, guided by one of the most remarkable texts ever written for the living and the dying alike. The Bardo Thödol, known in the West as the Tibetan Book of the Dead, was composed in the 8th century, attributed to the master Padmasambhava. Its title means liberation by hearing on the after-death plane. It is not a text for the dead. It is a text read aloud to them by a lama continuously for 49 days after the last breath. Fong, take us through the map itself, because most people have no idea how precise it is.
The Bardo Thödol describes dying as beginning with what it calls the outer dissolution, the sequential failing of the body's elemental systems. The earth element dissolves first. The body loses its solidity and heaviness. Water dissolves next. The body's fluids recede. Fire follows. Warmth leaves the extremities and moves inward. Wind dissolves last. The breath becomes labored, then stops. Each dissolution has signs visible to those present. A teacher in the tradition notes that when someone stops eating, the fire element is dissolving. Digestion, the burning of food, is ending. When someone stops eating, it is time to be with them. Then comes the inner dissolution, the 3 stages of the death of consciousness itself. And at the moment the last breath releases, the tradition describes the dawning of what it calls the clear light, a luminosity that is the nature of mind itself, suddenly unobscured. Recognition of it, the text says, is liberation. Non-recognition, and the journey continues through the Bardos. So Murugan, the 3 Bardos, walk us through them.
Right, and there are 3 Bardos the text describes. Basically, the 3 stages of the journey. The first, the Chikhai Bardo, the moment of death itself. The clear light dawns. Consciousness becomes aware it has died. The text is read aloud specifically at this moment, reminding the dying person what they are encountering and how to meet it. The second, the Chonyed Bardo, the visionary state that follows. The consciousness encounters what the tradition describes as peaceful and wrathful deities, projections of its own mental habits, its accumulated karma, encountered now without the buffer of a body. Recognition that these are the mind's own projections is the second opportunity for liberation. The third, the Siddhpa Bardo, the transition toward rebirth. The consciousness moves toward a new incarnation, shaped by the patterns of the life just lived. And here is what I find genuinely remarkable. Modern near-death experience research, more than 5,000 documented accounts collected by the Near-Death Experience Research Foundation, consistently reports elements that parallel the near-death's map. A luminous light, a life review, an encounter with figures, a sense of being between worlds. The text is 1,200 years old. The testimonies are contemporary. The overlap is worth sitting with.
Okay. And the most practical thing this Tibetan text offers is not a metaphysical system. It is a guide for how to be present with someone who is dying. The tradition holds that consciousness remains aware and capable of receiving guidance long after the last breath. That the words spoken in the room, the quality of presence brought by those who remain, genuinely matter to the person making the transition. That dying is not something that happens to someone while others stand helplessly by. it is something that can be accompanied. 3 things worth carrying from this. First, death is not a moment, it is a process. Treating it as such changes everything about how we approach it, for ourselves and for those we love. Second, preparation matters. The Bardo Thödol was designed to be studied before death, not only read at it. Familiarity with the map reduces the disorientation of the territory. Third, presence is participation. Being with someone who is dying is not passive witness. In this tradition, it is active accompaniment, and that accompaniment has genuine consequence. The last breath is not the end of the conversation. According to this tradition, it is the beginning of a different one. And how we show up for that is one of the most important things we can learn to do.
If this opens something for you, a question, a memory, a different way of seeing what is coming for all of us, share this with someone who needs permission to talk about it. You never know whose Tuesday it might quietly change.
Subscribe. Every week, 2 voices, 1 conversation, something worth your 5 minutes.
And Fong, does this tradition change how you think about your own death?
Yes, it makes it feel less like a wall and more like a door. I find that useful.
So do I.